Have you ever trusted someone so deeply that you ignored the little things, the subtle signs that something just wasn't right? My name is Phil, and for 2 years I thought I had a good thing going with Josephine. It turns out that I was wrong in ways that I couldn't have imagined. Josephine and I had been together for 2 years. On paper, we made sense. I'm the kind of guy who likes to keep things simple: a steady job, bills paid on time, nothing too flashy. I value trust and stability. Josephine, on the other hand, was a firecracker. She had this magnetic charm that could light up a room, and her ambition was contagious. She dreamed big, talked fast, and always seemed to be one step ahead. But Josephine had layers, some I didn't fully understand. She rarely talked about her past relationships, brushing off questions with a laugh or a quick subject change. Whenever something bothered her, she had this way of turning the tables, making it seem like I was the one being unreasonable. Looking back, I see those for what they were: red flags. At the time, though, I told myself it wasn't a big deal. Every relationship has its quirks, right? On the surface, things were stable. We didn't fight much, and we spent weekends watching movies, cooking, or just hanging out. But there were moments when Josephine felt distant. Like she was physically there, but her mind was miles away. I brushed it off, convincing myself I was overthinking. After all, she was busy, driven, and always juggling a million things. It was Josephine's idea to go to Bali. She pitched it as a reset, a chance to reconnect after 2 hectic years. She said all the right things: how we deserved a break, how it would bring us closer. Honestly, I was sold. Bali sounded perfect. Sunsets, beaches, good food. And truthfully, I thought it could be the thing that brought us back on the same page. Maybe this was the moment we'd take the next step. I didn't know then that Josephine had a completely different plan. Her ex-boyfriend, a software developer, lived in Bali. I had no idea she'd been talking to him, much less that this reset was just an elaborate cover to see him. She didn't give me any reason to suspect otherwise. She played the part of a girlfriend, ready to make things work, and I played along, hopeful that this trip was exactly what we needed. When we landed, everything felt like a dream. The resort was incredible. Palm trees swayed in the breeze, the ocean sparkled like something out of a travel brochure, and the staff greeted us with chilled drinks and warm smiles. It felt like paradise. The first couple of days were everything I hoped for. We had romantic dinners, explored the markets, and took silly photos by the pool. Josephine seemed relaxed, laughing at my dumb jokes and snapping selfies like any happy tourist. For a brief moment, I thought we'd turned a corner. But then I started noticing things. Little things. Josephine was glued to her phone, scrolling or texting, even during meals. When I asked about it, she'd wave me off with a quick, just work stuff. She'd step away to take calls, speaking in hushed tones. And when I asked who it was, she'd brush it off with a casual, just some emails I need to deal with. At first, I didn't press. I trusted her. Or, more accurately, I wanted to trust her. But something about the way she tilted her phone screen away whenever I glanced over, the way she hurried through her excuses, it didn't sit right with me. Still, I told myself to let it go. I mean, we were in Bali. This was supposed to be our time. Why would I let a few odd behaviors ruin it? One afternoon, after a long day of exploring, Josephine told me she wanted to check out some local markets alone. I just need a little time to myself, she said with a smile that didn't feel quite right. I was stretched out on the bed, tired and not really in the mood to argue, so I said, sure, no problem. But as soon as she left, that uneasy feeling came back. Something about her energy didn't sit right with me. I couldn't explain it, but I knew I had to trust my gut. That's when I remembered the tracking feature on our iPhones. We'd turned it on for safety before the trip. I opened the app and saw her location pop up on the map. She wasn't heading toward any markets. She was sitting still at a cafe just a few blocks away. Curiosity got the better of me. I threw on my shoes and headed out, my heart pounding in my chest. When I got close to the cafe, I slowed down and looked around carefully. And that's when I saw her. Josephine was sitting in a quiet corner, leaning in close to a man I recognized immediately. Her ex. I froze. What was he doing here in Bali? She had told me their relationship was over, that he was part of her past. But the way they were sitting tells a different story. I didn't want to make a scene. Instead, I stepped back into the shadows and watched. It wasn't hard to see what was happening. They were too comfortable together, too familiar. I pulled out my phone and snapped a few photos from a distance, her hand brushing his. The way they leaned toward each other like no one else in the world mattered. It was all the evidence I needed. By the time Josephine got back to the hotel, I had calmed myself down enough to act normal. How was the market? I asked, keeping my tone even. It was great, she said, handing me a small souvenir keychain. I smiled and thanked her, but inside, I was fuming. Later that evening, while she was in the shower, I did something I never thought I'd do. I went through her phone. I wasn't proud of it, but I needed to know the truth. What I found confirmed everything. The messages between her and her ex went back months. They talked about how much they missed each other, how they'd always have a connection. She hadn't even mentioned me to him. To him, she was single, ready to give their relationship another shot. I stared at the screen for what felt like hours, my stomach twisting into knots. This trip wasn't about us at all, it was about him. She had planned everything, down to the last detail, using me as cover. But I didn't confront her. Not yet. I needed time to think and figure out what to do next. For now, I knew one thing for sure. Our relationship was over. The next morning, I woke up with my decision already made. I knew exactly what I had to do, and there was no room for second-guessing. As Josephine got ready for the day, I told her, I'm feeling a bit off today. Probably all the food and sun yesterday. You go ahead without me. I'll catch up with you later. She didn't seem to suspect anything. In fact, she looked more relieved than concerned. All right, she said, casually brushing her hair. I'll go check out a couple of spots we talked about yesterday. I nodded, doing my best to seem relaxed. Have fun. Let me know if you find something interesting. As soon as the door clicked shut behind her, my calm act dropped. I sprang into action. The night before, I'd already booked a last-minute flight out of Bali, something earlier than I ever planned to leave. Now, I needed to put the rest of my plan into motion. First, I called the front desk to cancel the rest of our hotel stay, explaining that I had an emergency back home. Then I started packing my things. Every move felt surreal, like I was on autopilot. I double-checked that I had all my essentials, my passport, phone, wallet, and any personal belongings I didn't want left behind. Before leaving, I wrote a short note and placed it on the desk in the room. It said everything it needed to. Josephine, I know about your betrayal. I saw you with him. This trip wasn't about us, and now I understand that. The room is canceled, and I'm on a flight back home. Don't contact me. I've blocked you on everything. Good luck. I stared at the note for a moment before folding it neatly and placing it on the nightstand where she would see it. With my backpack slung over my shoulder and my suitcase rolling behind me, I took one last glance at the room. I wasn't sad, angry, or even nervous anymore. I just felt done. I left the hotel, caught a cab to the airport, and boarded the flight home without looking back. It was time to leave both Bali and Josephine behind. When Josephine got back to the hotel that night and found I was gone, her world must have started crumbling. She scrambled to book a last-minute flight back home. Flights out of Bali aren't cheap, especially at short notice, and she had to pay through the roof to get back as I did. I imagine it was a tough pill for her to swallow, especially since she'd expected this trip to be all about sneaking around while I played the fool. When Josephine got home, she didn't waste time trying to save face. She started telling our mutual friends a story where I was the villain. According to her, I had freaked out for no reason and abandoned her in Bali. She even accused me of being controlling and emotionally abusive, claiming that I ruined the trip because I couldn't handle her being friends with her ex. At first, a few friends bought into her lies. They started reaching out to me, asking if I had really done what she claimed. Some were cautious, others outright judgmental, and I could tell Josephine was trying to paint herself as the victim. I didn't panic or lash out. Instead, I calmly shared the evidence I had, photos of her with her ex, screenshots of their messages, and even the texts where she planned the trip to see him. I laid everything out so there was no room for doubt. When our friends saw the truth, their reactions were a mix of shock and anger at her. Some couldn't believe she had lied so blatantly and manipulated them into turning against me. The tide turned quickly. Most of our mutual friends started siding with me, realizing I wasn't the bad guy in this story. Some even cut ties with Josephine altogether, refusing to tolerate her deceit and selfishness. This was the beginning of Josephine's downfall. Her lies couldn't hold up under the weight of the truth, and the support she thought she had started slipping away, one friend at a time. By the time Josephine started stalking me and spreading more lies, I was already drained. It wasn't enough for her to try to ruin my friendships. She was now trying to mess with my career. She sent fake emails to my boss, claiming I was abusive and unstable. Thankfully, my workplace saw through the lies, but it still hurt that someone I once trusted would stoop so low. That's when I decided I'd had enough. I wasn't going to let her push me around anymore. I consulted a lawyer to figure out my options. After explaining everything to him, the lies, the harassment, and the fake accusations, he suggested we send her a cease and desist letter. The letter was direct and professional. It told her to stop contacting me, spreading lies, or doing anything that could harm my reputation. It also warned her that if she didn't stop, I'd file a defamation lawsuit against her. To make sure she took it seriously, we had the letter delivered by a process server. When Josephine received it, she flipped out. I heard from mutual friends that she was shocked and furious. She sent me a long, angry message from a new number, calling me a coward and accusing me of overreacting. I didn't reply. I blocked her again. The message was clear. She had to stop or she'd face the consequences. Looking back, the whole experience taught me a lot about myself and my relationships. For a long time, I ignored the red flags because I wanted to believe the best in Josephine. But in the end, I learned that trusting your instincts is crucial. If something feels off, it probably is. Another thing I learned was the importance of boundaries. Letting people walk all over you, whether it's in a relationship, at work, or with friends, only leads to more problems. I realized I deserved respect and honesty, and I wasn't going to settle for anything less. If I could advise anyone going through something similar, it would be this: trust your gut. If someone's actions don't match their words, pay attention. Don't be afraid to stand up for yourself. Staying silent only gives toxic people more power. Surround yourself with good people. True friends will support you and help you see the truth. Learn from the experience. Even the worst situations can teach you something valuable. Now, I'm focused on building a better future for myself. Josephine's lies and drama are behind me, and I'm grateful for the peace I have now. It wasn't easy, but cutting her out of my life was the best decision I've ever made.